I think that's a good fight for both of them in right now in their careers. I think that's a great fight for both of them because it's winnable for both of them. But, I'm not the one fighting, so at the end of the day, I'm not the one that controls who win or lose.
What could you tell Tim, or what could you tell him about a Spence fight if he was a future opponent?
I can't tell him nothing. I just tell him good luck, train hard, and go in there and fight.
Do you think you've said you don't think he beats Errol Spence?
Yeah, I think Spence beat him. At this point in both of their career, I think Spence beat him.
Errol is a guy who's always coming to the party to dance. He don't have time to play no games, and you gotta love that about Errol.
He's always been that guy, even in the amateurs, and I've always had respect for Errol Spence because he's a real fighter. He's not a guy that talks a lot, but he brings a big stick to the battle. And when you deal with Errol Spence, you got to bring your lunch pail because he's going to bring it and he's nothing to play with.
The most interesting thing about Errol Spence versus Tim Tszyu is that fans are divided for completely different reasons. Some people see Spence as a former pound-for-pound star who dominated the welterweight division for years. The only man who beat him was Terence Crawford, and many still believe his experience and ring IQ are on a level that Tim Tszyu has never faced before.
Is it a good fight? Yes, but the question marks surrounding him are there, and because he's been so absent from the sport, he's been inactive. He is coming off that really bad loss to Terence Crawford. How much is really left in the tank? Only him and his team will really know at this point. How is he going to react to punches on fight night? We're never going to know. But honestly, Tszyu is coming off a really bad run himself, so I do actually think it's a good matchup in terms of timelines. Their timelines crossing, it makes sense. It's not like we're throwing Errol right into Virgil Ortiz. Right. That I would be very concerned about. Really wouldn't want to see that. But this fight makes sense.
Yeah. How does that fight look? I mean, it's been a while since we saw Errol.
Really, I couldn't tell you. Really couldn't tell you because we don't know how much Errol has. I think Errol at his best would be one of the top guys at 54. Yeah. But we haven't seen Errol at his best in a very long time.
But others see a very different picture. You see a 36-year-old fighter coming off a tough loss, years of inactivity, a new trainer, and a long 3-year layoff. No amount of old highlights can erase those concerns. That's why this fight feels less like a comeback and more like a mystery. Nobody truly knows what version of Errol Spence will show up until the opening bell rings.
And if he does the tune-up, he might get his ass kicked in the tune-up against a nobody, and that's gonna make him look bad. So that's where I said that's probably what's going on, and that's probably why he took the decision to go straight into the Tim Tszyu fight. Maybe because he doesn't want to risk the tune-up fight and lose for what, a couple $100,000. He's gonna go in there for a couple $1 million and
there's no losing in that. And he could win. It's 50-50.
Yeah, and if he's fresh and he's good, then he could win because Tim Tszyu is also kind of in that direction where he looked good. I like the way he fought.
What's even more interesting is that Tim Tszyu also enters this fight with plenty of questions around him. Some fans treat him like the clear favorite, but his recent performances haven't been perfect. He has been hurt, knocked down, and even stopped in recent fights. So while many people keep asking if Spence is finished, the reality is that both fighters are trying to prove they still belong among boxing's elite. That's what makes this matchup so exciting. If the old Errol Spence returns, the pressure fighter with the powerful jab and relentless body attack, he could break Tim down in the later rounds.
I don't know. I mean, Spence hasn't fought in decades. Feels like even Charlo. So I don't know. How do you know what's left out of those guys mentally, physically? You don't know. Obviously with Tim, there's a lot of question marks. He's just come back with a win, but at least Tim is trying to stay busy and active. With those guys, it's hard to say. You haven't seen them. You don't know how their training's going, if their training is even going, and how they are mentally and physically at this point in their life and their careers. With Spence, you don't know what's left. He's not looked very good, so it might be one of those cases where you're catching him at the right time. But then again, Spence may feel that about Tszyu as well, right? Yeah. You might catch him at the right time. It's one of those things where the matchup makes sense because both guys might be catching one another at the right time.
The matchup works because both fighters may be meeting at exactly the right moment in their careers. If Spence's timing is even slightly off, Tim is young, active, and aggressive enough to take advantage of every mistake. My prediction is that this fight doesn't go the full distance. Not because either fighter is reckless, but because both men have too much to prove. Right now, I slightly favor Spence by a late stoppage or a close decision. Still, I wouldn't be surprised if Tim pulls off the victory. That's what makes this fight must-watch television. One fighter's comeback story continues, while the other's future becomes much more complicated.
A really interesting fight because both these guys are literally at the same exact point in their lives. Granted, one fight for Errol Spence Jr., but it's been 3 years and a multitude of fights now for Tim Tszyu that have taken him, just down in the gutter and even further in the gutter. But I just think that if you compare these guys, I feel like they're both in the exact same place in a lot of ways. And Rock, you tell me, I've never had this issue ever. And I'm not saying that you have, but I want to know if you have, if you're willing to be honest with yourself before you're honest with us and our audience. But this could be that situation where a guy gets hit and all of a sudden they shell up.
As the debate continues between Spence's experience and Tszyu's activity, Tim sounds more confident than ever. What stands out isn't just his confidence, but how calm and calculated it sounds. He isn't talking like a fighter chasing a famous name. He sounds like someone who has spent years studying a target and finally has the chance to attack.
Again, you got Errol Spence Jr. Give me your thoughts on Errol. He's been out of the game, been away from the game. It'll be about 3 years when you guys fight that he had his last fight.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I think 3 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Especially at the sort of the peak years of your career.
Yeah.
Don't know how he's been looking after himself or what he's been doing. So, again, he's been one of the greatest fighters of this decade. His results speak for themselves, and his only loss is against Crawford,
right?
Who is the greatest fighter of our decade,
right?
So it's a crazy challenge in front, but a challenge that I'm willing to take with both hands. And I wouldn't be taking this fight if I knew I didn't win.
You can hear it whenever Tim talks about Spence. There is respect in his words, but not the kind of respect that creates fear. It's the respect of a competitor who knows the danger but still believes he can win. Even during their handshake and interview moments, Tim looked relaxed and confident. As the conversation went on, it felt like his mindset changed from respectful challenger to a fighter fully ready for battle. At the same time, he isn't ignoring Spence's accomplishments. He openly admits that Spence was one of the best fighters of his generation. That's important because one loss to Terence Crawford doesn't erase everything Spence achieved throughout his career.
I want to hurt him.
Yeah.
That's my mentality right now going into this fight, because I really want to do damage.
You feel like you're catching them at the best time?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I don't think I'm expecting the Errol Spence I was fighting.
Yeah.
Kell Brook back in the days, that type of fighter. But we shall.
Still, Tim understands the obvious concern. 3 years is a very long time away from the ring. While Spence has been rebuilding, Tszyu has been staying active, gaining rounds, improving his skills, and working on the weaknesses that hurt him in previous fights. Tim has already revealed part of his strategy. He wants to start fast and immediately put pressure on Spence. He wants answers from the opening bell. Does Spence still have his timing? Are his reflexes still sharp? Can he handle pressure after such a long break? Tim wants those questions answered right away. But Spence has always been a fighter who grows stronger as fights go longer. That creates a fascinating clash of styles between a fast starter and a proven survivor.
I want to come in red hot. No feel out this time around. Just come in red hot. And I want to go in and really just go for his head straight away.
That's what you want. Is that also what Jeff wants?
I don't know. I haven't
talked about that yet. Okay, well, let's hope that that's what Jeff wants. That way, there's no, we don't see him,
Things become even more complicated when boxing analyst Chris Algieri gives his opinion. Algieri points out that many of the questions surrounding Spence are completely legitimate. He isn't criticizing Spence, nor is he declaring Tszyu the winner. Instead, he's reminding everyone that nobody truly knows what version of Errol Spence will enter the ring. That's the biggest mystery in boxing right now. We have spent months debating ring rust, age, layoffs, trainers, and motivation, but the truth is nobody has seen Spence perform at the highest level in a very long time. At the same time, Algieri also reminds fans not to treat Tim Tszyu like an unbeatable force. Both fighters have strengths, both have weaknesses, and that's exactly why this fight is one of the most intriguing matchups in boxing today.